Morning is 6, and this is your numeracy lesson coming up for today. Today we're going to be continuing to look at how to share using ratio, but in particular now I'm going to show you how we can still use skills that you already have in order to calculate how this is done. So with the assignment that I had given you last week on Friday, it was very straightforward in terms of what you needed to do. For example, here, simplify these ratios. It's basically similar to doing lowest terms. You look at the number 10 and 4 and you ask yourself, what is the common factor between those two? It's going to be 2. So if I divide 10 by 2, I get 5. And if I divide 4 by 2, I get 2. So think about it this way. If I had to have a fraction 10 over 4, and if I had to bring that down to its lowest terms, I'd divide by 2, and I'd end up with 5 over 2. The thing in ratio is that we don't bring it down to a mixed number in its lowest terms. That's all. 6, 8, what is the common factor here? Again, it's going to be 2. So if this was 6 over 8, I would divide by 2. And 6 divided by 2 is 3. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So here it would basically be 3, 4. Now remember, with ratio, order matters. So if I had to write it this way around, I had to write 4 to 3, that would be very wrong because I've mixed up the ratios. If the 6 is first, the number that is being reduced to must be first, and if the 8 is second, the number that is being reduced to must be second also. Sorry, there should be a 4. I don't think I can write and operate a laptop at the same time. So the reducing of ratios, I hope that there was no problems with that. There shouldn't have been really. And for these ones down here, the question says, this one here, split 50 pounds between these 5 boxes. So basically 50 divided by 5, that's going to be 10 pounds, 10 pounds, 10 pounds, 10 pounds, 10 pounds, giving us a total of 50. Basically, we have shared 50 into 5 equal parts. Now, when you come to the question here and it says split 50 pounds in the ratio of 2 to 3, 2 to 3, that means the answer for 3 needs to be there, and the answer for 2 needs to be there. And it's important to remember that order matters, and to remember that. Order matters. Now, we can see from this picture here that it is 2 shares over here, because this would be 2 parts of our share, and there would be 3 shares over here. And this would basically show us that our answer would be 20 pounds to 30 pounds. And if you added 20 plus 30, you still get 50. So we know that our answer is correct. When you've got the sharing done in boxes in front of you, it's fairly straightforward. If I do it for this one here, let me use different colors. The sharing for this one here is going to be different. Oh wait, I shouldn't have done all of it. Now it's saying split 50 pounds in the ratio of 4 to 1. So that means the blue ratio is going to be 1 share, and the pink ratio is going to be 4 shares. And when you do it like this, it's very plain to see that our 4 shares is going to be worth 40 pounds. And in this case, our 1 share is going to be worth 10 pounds. And if you say 40 plus 10, it equals 50. So we know that we're still dealing with the same amount. This question was very similar. So what we're going to be dealing with today is not having to draw the boxes every time you do this, but just to use skills that you already have in multiplication of fractions in order to calculate this in exactly the same way. So I've got this question here set up, and it says, Muila and Tristan share a box of Smarties in the ratio of 3:2. There are 60 Smarties in the box. How many Smarties does each boy get? So I'm going to first of all do a checklist of things just to help you get through the process of what to do when attempting a question like this. The first thing is to determine which ratios go where. Okay, so by that I mean you've got Muila and you've got Tristan. Which one of these two boys goes with which one of those two ratios? Obviously, if you remember the rule, order matters. So the first boy, Muila's name, goes with the first ratio, and then the second name goes with the second ratio, like that. And they stay like that. Everything that we're going to calculate to do with the green belongs to Muila. Everything that we're going to calculate to do with the yellow belongs to Tristan. And then the final thing the next thing you need to consider is, what is our whole? Or what are we sharing? And we are sharing, in this case, our 60 Smarties. There are 60 Smarties in the box. So the next thing we need to consider is, how do we share this? Okay, a given ratio of 3:2, and we're sharing 60 Smarties. The first thing that we do when we start attempting the calculation portion of this, I mean, there's step 1 and step 2, but this is the actual calculation portion. So I'll just put a star there. We need to figure out what is our total share. In other words, if we had to make this into a fraction, how many shares are we going with each round of sharing? How many shares are we giving out? We have got 3 shares for Muila, 2 for Tristan. Then we come 3 for Muila, 2 for Tristan. 3 for Muila, 2 for Tristan. In each round of sharing, how many parts have I shared? I've shared 3 parts and then 2 parts. And then I've shared another 3 parts and then I've shared another 2 parts. However, in each round of sharing, I have shared 5 portions. Okay? And then with ratio, you just keep going through those 5 portions over and over again. So in this case here, we have got a total share of 5. And how did we get that 5? It is the ratio 3:2. We just add these together. We add those together, and that makes a total share of 5. Now this 5 becomes the denominator for our fraction, because that is how many parts our sharing has been divided into. Now look at how this works. We're sharing 60 Smarties. So now the fourth part that I can come to is, once we've got our total shares, I can now start to calculate. And I'm going to use multiplication of fractions. We've done this when we did multiplication of fractions. We've done it when we did multiplication of whole numbers. We've done it when we've done percentages. Identical working out. So there shouldn't be any issues here in terms of what you're doing in the method. I'm wanting to calculate Muila's share first. So he had 3 shares. So in one round of sharing, there were 5. And out of those 5, 3 belong to Muila. So that is how I'll set this up. So 3 out of my 5 shares, and I was sharing 60 Smarties. That proportion belongs to Muila. And now I just use my normal reduce first method. I can see there's a relationship between 5 and 60 here already. 5 into self goes once. 5 into 60 goes 12 times. 3 times 12, 36 Smarties goes to Muila. And I will highlight this in yellow because I want to show you that order matters. Confirming Muila was, no, you see now, just the three shares out of 5 belong to Mula, and that equates to 36 Smarties that is coming Mula's way out of this box of 60. Now the question at the top here says, how many Smarties does each boy get? So if we have calculated 3/5, 5 coming from our total share here, okay, and Mula was the 3 of the ratio, then it would just stand to reason that if we wanted to calculate Tristan's share, it stands to reason then that to calculate Tristan's share, it would be 2/5 times 60 Smarties. So again, very similar to the first sum, I can see there's a relationship between 5 and 60. So 5 into itself goes once, 5 into 60 goes 12 times. 12 times 2 is 24 Smarties. Will be coming Tristan's way. Now, the thing is, because there's only 2 people that we are calculating for here, and we'd already found out that Mula is getting 36 Smarties, there was really no need to go through the whole process of calculating Tristan's in the same way. We did it, but there was a simpler way. If we knew, just ruler line under that, if we knew that Mula is getting 36 Smarties, and there are only 60 Smarties in a box, can you predict how I'm going to work this out? Mula got 36, so I've taken out his share. What should I be left with? So obviously, the remainder's got to go to Tristan. And that's just another way to confirm that you've actually worked these things out in a correct way. So if you had to take this ratio now, and remember we are Mula first, you guys are going to be famous. People are going to be tired of hearing your boys' names today. If I had to take Mula, and he was the ratio of 3 to 2, and Mula got 36 Smarties, and Tristan got 24 Smarties. Here, total share. And here, we could even call this 60 shares. Look at this. We've got fractions here. If we had to say 36 over 24, if just as a way to understand this better, if this was a fraction, and if we had to bring this down to its lowest terms, you look at the numbers 36 and 24 and you ask yourself which number is related to both of those. Guess what it's going to be? Here's your 12 already. You divide by 12. What you do to the bottom, you do to the top. You're going to end up with 3 over 2. Now remember, we're not working in fractions as such, so we're not going to make this into a mixed number in its lowest terms. But just to show that once we've actually shared out the Smarties, we come back down to our base ratio. Nothing has changed. This shows how proportion has remained the same. Right, so I've come up with the second question here. I've put the girls into the mix now. Chloe and Taylor share a top deck bar in the ratio of 1:2. The bar of chocolate has 12 pieces altogether. How many pieces does each girl get? So we're just going to follow our checklist that I've done for you guys. The first thing that you need to do here, according to number 1, is decide which ratios go where. So let's identify the 2 people that we're sharing with first of all. That is Chloe. We'll put her in yellow. So obviously order matters. She's going to get the first share in that ratio. Taylor is the second person in that ratio. So order matters. She's going to get the second share. And what is being shared in total? We are sharing a piece of chocolate and it has got 12 pieces in it. So that is our whole. So we've already determined number 1, number 2. What is our total share? So now let's look back to our ratio. we've got a ratio of 1 for Chloe and 2 for Taylor. So in each round of sharing, Chloe's going to get 1 piece of chocolate and Taylor's going to get 2 pieces of chocolate. That's 3 pieces shared. Then we come back to Chloe. 1 for you, 2 for Taylor. Another 3 pieces shared. 1 for you, 2 for Taylor. Another 3 pieces shared, and so on until the entire chocolate is done. So our total share here is going to be in the ratio of 1 to 2. Total share equals 3. That's going to be the denominator of our fraction when we start to calculate this. Why? Because in a round of 3 shares, Chloe gets 1, Taylor's getting 2. We've shared 3 pieces of chocolate. That's where that 3 comes from. So now we go ahead and calculate this. So for Chloe, she's getting 1 out of 3 pieces from a piece of chocolate that has got 12 pieces. So we say 1/3 of 12. We see there's a relationship between 3 and 12 here. Highest common factor there is 3, so you divide 3 by itself, you get 1. 3 into 12 goes 4 times. 4 times 1 is 4. Chloe's getting 4 pieces. So if Chloe has had 4 pieces shared to her, without even having to calculate, what would be the reasonable guess of what Taylor would get? There's 12 pieces of chocolate. Chloe has received 4 pieces. How many is left? Obviously, there should be 8 pieces left. So let's just work this out. Taylor is getting 2 shares. So we're going to calculate this on her side. She's getting 2 out of those 3 shares of the same 12 pieces of chocolate over 1. Okay. Same relationship numbers here. 3 into 12 goes once. 3 into 12 goes 4 times. 4 times 2 is... What's 8 plus 4? 8 plus 4 is 12. So you can see that our ratios here have not changed. Our proportions, shall I say, have not changed. Here we've got our shares for Chloe, and here we've got our shares for Taylor. This is probably going to just make it invisible. Yeah, same color. Following the same sharing here. And that's all there is to it, sharing to a given ratio. Follow these 3 steps, decide which ratios go where, what are we sharing, and what is our total share. And so now, it's your turn. And I'm going to have in this assignment here a few questions that you will be able to calculate. I'll look at the first one with you, and you should be able now to continue the rest on your own. So here's an example. There's friends Bill and Betty, and they buy a lottery ticket worth $1 or 100 cents. Bill pays 60 cents and Betty pays the other 40 cents. So remember already, order matters. Of these 2 ratios here, which is which? I can see a ratio of, even if we had to say 60 to 40, if you wanted to reduce this to its lowest terms, you could say 6 to 4, and that could come down even further. That would come down to 3 is to 2, and you've got your final ratio. Total share, you're going to have to figure out what that is. Who's paying the 60 cents? Bill. Who's paying the 40 cents? Betty. So that ratio is going to automatically give them a total share. If you work it out of 100, total share is out of 100, 60, 40, if that's your ratio. Total share is going to be out of 100. Bill is going to be paying 60 cents out of 100 times 100 cents over 1. Change the dollars to cents because that's what you're working with there. Calculated that way. Betty is going to get 40 out of 100 cents because 100 is the total share multiplied by what they are trying to share. The idea here is they are going to win $1,000. Should they both get $500 each? Now, if they want to be fair, it doesn't really matter if you're friends who paid more and who paid less. You've won $100. Yes, let's share the money. You get $500 each. However, if you wanted to share according to a given ratio, should they get $500 each? How would you calculate this? It would be fair to split it according to the ratios and the proportions that they had given. We see that Bill gave a share of 60 cents of the ticket. and Betty gave a share of 40 cents of the ticket. They had a ratio, and Betty's ratio is going to be 2, 3:2. So here we've got our ratio as 60-40. Remember that you can still bring this down to its lowest terms before you start to work it out. It does help you not work with the larger numbers. So at the end of it, you should get these as your answers. Bill is getting $600, pounds. I don't know why there's a pound sign there. Betty is getting $400. If I had to show you how this works out quickly, I've just put this question into Word now. So we're going to work it out here. Decide which ratios go where. So we're going to put our ratios down as 60, 40, and that's a total share of 100. Okay, and we are now sharing $1,000. We're sharing $1,000 here. So if we want to figure out what Bill's share is going to be, Bill is the first name, so his name is attached to the first ratio. This is Betty. Bill is going to be 60 out of our total share of 100. Multiplied by, we're trying to figure out what his share of $1,000 is going to be. Okay, we can divide by 100 straight away here, or divide by 10. 10 into 60 goes 6 times, 10 into 100 goes 10 times. There's still a relationship here. 10 into itself goes once, 10 into 1,000 goes 100 times. And we're left with 6 times 100. $600 goes to Bill. So obviously 1,000 minus 600 means $400 is going to go to Betty. Now you could work this out using fractions or subtraction. It doesn't really matter. This is going to go to Betty. Okay. So I will post a couple of other questions for you to calculate, and there'll be probably 5 of them. See how you get on, and hopefully we can get more practice done tomorrow. I'll just send out practice work for tomorrow. Please do let me know if you need further explanation. Philip, you called earlier, and I don't know if this lesson has made it a lot more clear, but you understand your multiplication of fractions really well and your percentages really well. So these are the same skills that you're using. I hope that this makes sense to all of you. Let me know if you need extra help. Thank you.